Well, the Philippines is heading towards pivotal midterm elections next week as President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and his former ally, Vice President Sara Duterte, battle it out in the polls. It comes after former President Rodrigo Duterte, Sara Duterte's father, was arrested and sent to The Hague earlier this year on charges of crimes against humanity. For more on this, I'm joined by the chair of the Department of Political Science at the University of the Philippines Diliman, Professor Aries Arugay. Aries, good to have you with us this evening now. So we are just days away from this midterm elections. How critical are they, and what are some of the main issues that will be on the top of voters' minds as they cast their ballots?
The midterm elections will feature half of the 24-member Senate that is nationally elected, all the seats in the lower chamber of the legislature, the House of Representatives, and local government, executive, and council positions. So this is normally interpreted as an informal referendum on the popularity of the incumbent Marcos Jr. administration. But in this particular electoral cycle, two other issues are quite stark. One is the looming impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. And this is important because the senators who will be elected will act as senator jurors in the impeachment trial. The second has something to do with the arrest of former Rodrigo Duterte, who has somehow remobilized his base. And a lot of Duterte supporters are now trying to vote in accordance of which senators and which politicians are more loyal to Duterte than to Marcos and would carry the agenda of the Dutertes, possibly with Sara Duterte running for the presidency in 2028.
Yes, and is that indicative of how things are looking for President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.? Because the reports are that his popularity is declining. Is that what the polls are saying?
Right. Well, the numbers of Marcos Jr. indeed are dropping faster than Sara Duterte. Sara Duterte's numbers were able to bounce back after the arrest of her father. So therefore, in the current polling for the 12 slots for senators, it seems like Marcos Jr.'s administration slate still has the upper hand with around maybe 9 at the maximum, 9 out of the 12. But Sara Duterte only needs 8 votes to get acquitted for impeachment. And impeachment of Sara Duterte is quite important because one of the sanctions, according to the Constitution, if she gets convicted, she could be perpetually barred from any elective position, which means that she's not going to be qualified if she gets convicted to run for president in 2028.
Yes. And what is at stake here for President Marcos in terms of his policy agenda to get them approved, get the tick of approval through the two houses of the parliament there?
Yes, it's important because Marcos Jr. in 2022 was able to control almost 2/3, if not 3/4, of either of the chambers of the parliament or the Philippine Congress. So therefore, any decline in the number of seats and falling short of a majority would have an impact on the ability of the Marcos Jr. administration to carry out the remainder of its legislative agenda. There's still a lot of work to be done because economy-wise, the Philippine economy hasn't really improved under Marcos Jr. and he campaigned to be an economy president, and yet he's on the midterm of his presidential tenure, and no economic gains have yet to be seen.
And I'm also reading, Aries, that he's also got some internal unrest to deal with within his own family.
Yes, indeed, because one of the candidates for the Senate is his elder sister, Senator Amy Marcos, who, to the surprise of many, seemed to have thrown her support to the Duterte dynasty. And she has been very critical of Rodrigo Duterte's arrest by the International Criminal Court, and short of criticizing her brother directly for allowing this to happen. And this is her way to somehow maybe get some votes because she's quite weak in the southern Philippines, in Mindanao, which is the Duterte bailiwick, and possibly the idea of being Sara Duterte's running mate as vice president in 2028.
So do particularly Rodrigo Duterte's supporters feel that, if they give that power there, the parliamentary power at least, to Duterte and their factions, that somehow they might be able to convince the powers to be in The Hague to get him back on Philippine soil.
Well, that's a long shot, but given that the ICC trial is going to be quite insulated from domestic politics, and ICC trials often don't pay attention to what is going on within the domestic politics of the country where these alleged crimes have happened. But I do think this is really to further empower the Dutertes, because at the moment, they might seem to be very powerful, but they're not really in positions. They don't have the presidency. They don't have a lot of political clout in formal political institutions. And I think they're thinking of what is the best way for the Dutertes to regain the presidency in 2028.
What might be the implications of these midterms for the presidential election that will come up in 2028?
The senators are nationally elected. It's quite an odd legislature, because normally upper chambers of the legislature are elected regionally. But in the Philippines, these senators are elected nationally. And therefore, it seemed to be in the past, senatorial elections are like tests or practice elections for the presidency. So apart from the Marcoses and the Dutertes, the senatorial elections might feature alternative leadership, alternative presidential contenders, especially those who will get the top post or the top seats in the senatorial elections.
And just finally, we've also reading, issues concerning political interference from China. What have you been hearing?
Right. Some of the candidates who are trying to get votes and are in the bottom part of the 12 seats that are going to be up for grabs seem to be doing a strategy of campaigning on an anti-China stance, and therefore have been trying to get some parliamentary inquiries on local interference. There's some truth to it, given the Alice Guo case, of which a mayor who is really not a Filipino citizen was able to win local elections. And the fear is that there are more of her kind across the country, and that could really mean that China is bent on influencing local politics, with the hope that one of these local officials could reach the presidential palace.
Okay, Professor Aries Arugay, really appreciate your analysis and explaining to us all about these very high stakes midterms. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.